welcome back to the Constitutionals Podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the premier podcast for the website, cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, is a website. Go there. Episode 309 to your favorite podcast that you forgot you're subscribed to. Hey, listen, if you didn't hear, I'm going to do a little bit of self-promotion. I just had the episode prior to this was an interview episode. I sat down with Chris Gray. You know, I'm so professional. I'm so professional. We here at C Plus Comedy, me, the Tiger over there. Hold on, the Tiger right there. The Tiger, Nova, Maverick. All of us, we support all the great things that we do here. Listen. I had to sit down with Chris Grace, comedian Chris Grace from Superstore, and talk about his new special on Dropout.tv, which is the new iteration, the evolved iteration, rather, of College Humor. The special is called Chris Grayson as Scarlett Johansson, and it is an exploratory title about him and what's her name? Scarlett Johansson. That's it. I'm sorry. There's a Humble Bundle that just released and I'm interested in one of the games. Okay, I'm done. I need to actually do this. So check it out. If you want to see a video version of this interview with me and Chris, between me and Chris and I, Chris and myself, you can find it on youtube.com/C+comedy, where you can find all the other videos for youtube.com for C+ comedy. And you can find the other versions of the interviews I've done there. He's the first interview I've done since C+ Comedy turned 11. All right, let me get into this story. This is not a big story at all, but it's something that happened to me in the past 18 hours. Okay, this week is Netflix Geeked Week, and it's a yearly thing, annual thing where they talk about all the new shows and movies that are coming to the platform. Not all of them, but all the most popular shows and movies that they have lined up for the next year to come out and release. So we heard about shows, movies, and games, and we saw clips of Arcane, and there's a new Netflix. Netflix has a new Devil May Cry series, and the second season of Avatar: The Last Airbender. But I live in Atlanta, and there's a bunch of controversies around here anyway. But Netflix chose Atlanta as their place to do their Comic-Con style convention. Their Comic-Con style convention where people dress up in cosplay, and then they have at the culmination of it, they have a Geeked Week convention showcase where famous people from Netflix come out and they talk about their whatever's going on. I went. I managed to get free tickets, which were gone very quickly. I don't know what happened, but they were gone so fast. I got two. I went by myself. I knew that was going to end up happening, and because also it was on a Thursday night, and I'm always so tired on Thursdays from the workout I did prior in the day. Mostly because it's like the hardest one I do all week, and I was just unsure. I didn't want to invite anybody and be like, listen, I'm tired, and I didn't want to drive. I wanted to bike, so that's a very important thing. I just wanted to bike so I could get in and get out. It's like 6 o'clock on Thursday, and I go, all right, let me do some yoga, let me cook dinner, let me feed the pets, and I'll go to this thing because it starts at 8. And that's how last minute that I decided I was not going to go. That's how last minute it was. And I ride over there. First of all, on the bike ride over, I'm very close. Like I was close to it. I was close to getting there. I was almost, I was down the street. I was like maybe 3 to 5 minutes away. I was passing people on this man-made trail called the Beltline, and a bug flew in my mouth and it went down my throat, and I just straight up swallowed a bug. So the entire time going there, I'm just like trying to get it out. Nope, it went down into my tummy. And then I finally get there. I land. I'm guessing not a lot of people were from the neighborhood, because usually if I go to a concert at this venue called the Eastern, um, there's like all the bike racks are filled with bikes. People are whatever. But I was the only bike there. Even when I left, I was the only bike there, and I just thought that was so interesting. Anyway, I arrive at the Eastern, and it's in this kind of it's right next to it's between all these apartments, this concert venue, which would really suck if you lived right there, but it's between all these apartments, and there's like other spaces that used to be restaurant spaces, but I guess they used them for talent and everything, and they'd dressed up every single, let's say like in between all these apartments, there's like 3 to 5 buildings inside. Like they dressed up all of these buildings with Netflix paraphernalia and everything. It was so cool to see. And then this morning when I was driving, I was going to the Publix nearby. So I was driving by in my car, and they were taking down all that stuff. And I was just like, God, they did that. And like, they put it up there for 3 days and did it and taking it down in like one. I go inside, so they have like Squid Game people dressed up, the masks and the like working for Netflix, so you can take pictures and things like that. I go inside the venue, and first of all, when I go to the Eastern, I like to arrive if the doors are at 6:30 and the show's at 8. I like to arrive at 7:59. I don't want to be bothered. I want to walk in. I want to and there's standing room, and then there's seated space. And obviously, because it's a showcase, they make people stay seated. So I get there. I don't think they're going to make people stay seated. And this guy's like, he takes me up to like the rafters. I have to sit in seats between people, and there's like people talking the entire time. And I was like, guys, if you're here to watch, a trailer for One Piece season 2, then just watch it. They had popcorn, Netflix branded popcorn, and because I swallowed a bug, I dug into that popcorn so quick. I needed to layer it on top. Joe Magnelio hosted. There were people from One Piece there. I don't know. I don't watch One Piece. There are people from other shows there. I genuinely have no clue. There are people from movies there that haven't even released. I had no clue who they were. But you know what? Every time someone came out, I clapped. I was polite. It's so interesting. People, these like 2 people from Avatar came out, and Jacob Bertrand, and I don't know this guy's name, and I don't know how to pronounce it. His name is, oh God, it's from Cobra Kai. Jacob Bertrand is the guy with the mohawk, and then the other guy's name is Zolo Mariduena. They were the hosts of the evening. Well, they were like the commentators of the evening, and Joe Manganiello was the host. And it was crazy to see dichotomy between when Joe came out and Zolo and Jacob Bertrand were commentating, and the guys from One Piece and the guys from Avatar. To see them, like everybody was like excited to see them, and then Charlie Booker from the creator of Black Mirror, the creator of everyone's favorite show. Oh, it's so subversive. Oh, it's funny and it's dark and it's like the real world, People, like, that's how people talk about it. They gave him nothing. He came out, I was like, oh my God, you guys know who that is. I was like, I felt like a teenage girl seeing, Troye Sivan. Couldn't think of anybody quick enough. But I like truly, I reacted like I was seeing somebody super famous, because I'm a television producer. I see somebody in my craft and I go, that's you and me, buddy. Also, Zack Snyder came out again to tepid applause. This is one, and I will say this with utmost confidence. Zack Snyder is one of the best directors out there. I love him. I think he's great. I think he's so talented. I love Zack Snyder's Justice League. I don't give a shit what anyone thinks. I think Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition is great. I think 300 is good. I truly. I think Zack Snyder's a talent. Does everything work out? No. Okay, and that's what happens. So not everything is good. Not everything is bad. All in quotes. It's all relative. Just enjoy what you enjoy. Who cares? I think Zack Snyder's great. And he came out and it was fun. And then it got to be like 9:30 or 9. It got to be 9:40, and the last thing they had left was One Piece. And I just went, I gotta go. I can't stay here. I'm about to pass out. So I go back to my bike. But in between all that, the show itself was good. The Eastern was so cold. I was wearing shorts and a short sleeve shirt, and even though I was sweating on the bike ride over, I almost got pneumonia just sitting in my sweat. When I was leaving, they're handing out things. Also, this is so interesting. Oh, let me finish the story. When I was leaving, they were handing out like a poster and with like stuff. It was just like a poster and something else. And I rode my bike there. I don't want to carry anything. I didn't want the 21 and over bracelet they gave me. And I was wearing like these kind of very funky board shorts that have a very playful design on them. And the woman was like, "I like your shorts. Here, take this." And she was like, "Hand me the poster." And I went, "I'm fine. I'm good. I don't need that. I don't want a poster that says Netflix Geeked Week or One Piece or whatever, any of that junk on there." Also, everybody was there to see Stranger Things and One Piece. Like, they could care, like, even though they enjoy those other properties that Netflix has, it is crazy to see, like Stranger Things, they like freaking Stranger Things, they showed a blooper reel for Stranger Things and people were recording it on their phones. And I'm like, guys, I'm getting emails to cpluscomedy@gmail.com that have these same trailers. Anyway, there was one instance where there's a lot of, it's a fan event, like Comic-Con. It's a fan event, and they had costume contests and all that stuff, and they did that beforehand. Like they did that like all digitally beforehand, and so we'd have to sit the torment of watching 10 people parade around on stage, which is great. But they had one thing that did not go well. I don't think, until like the very last end of it. They had a trivia game featuring, Joe was hosting it, featuring Xavier Woods and another famous wrestler. And then they also had on both sides with Xavier and the wrestler, two cosplayers each from the audience. And they were asking, I'll say it, on a scale of 1 to 10, they were asking like level 8 questions about Netflix properties. So they were like, "Oh, in Avatar, in Avatar: Last Airbender, Aang said this to so and so. What episode was it and in what context?" Like, they were asking things like that. That wasn't an exact question, but they were asking things like that. And I have not seen Avatar. I've not seen a lot of the shows that they were talking about. In fact, I'll tell you this: I'd only watched Cobra Kai. I've only seen the first season of Stranger Things, and I've seen 2 seasons of Black Mirror. So everything else, and Squid Game. I've seen all Squid Game. But everything else, I was truly just like, it was going over my head, and I just didn't understand anything. And these people answering the trivia questions became enemy number one so fast. Like, people in the audience were answering questions for them, and these people were trying to be cool. Look, I know people have a lot to show off and want to be cool and everything, but just because people liked your Aang cosplay or your Carmen Sandiego cosplay, buddies, you gotta like drop the ego. Even I know when to drop the ego, and I'm an asshole. Like, truly, just like, you're up there. You're not there to be entertaining. You're there to play the game. Joe is the candy. Joe is the candy. Netflix is the candy. You are nothing. Truly nothing. Don't try to be funny. Don't try to be entertaining, because there's not like, Charlie Booker's not going to be there going, "Oh, these people are interesting. Let me put them in the next season of Black Mirror." Or he's going to say it in a British, "Oh, these people are interesting. Let me put them in the next season of Black Mirror." Zack Snyder's not going to be like, I'll put them in Rebel Moon 3. It was a fun time. I had a nice time. I'm glad I did it. Because again, at 6 p.m. on Thursday, 2 hours before the show started, I said, you know what? I want to go because I want to be able to have a story to tell. And then I'd be kicking myself if I didn't go. And yeah, I'm tired, but I can just push through. And then I got home and I don't want to say how many pints of Ben and Jerry's I have in my freezer. I have a lot. And I know I had one pint that was maybe, I had like maybe an eighth left. And I said, I'm going to eat that right before bed. And at 10 p.m. I had that. And then I brushed my teeth and went to sleep. Oh, I watched The Simpsons too. I have to watch The Simpsons every day. All right, let's get to this first story. That's a very long story, but it was very fun. This comes from The Hollywood Reporter, speaking of Netflix, written by Caitlin Houston. Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos calls on competitors to release viewership numbers, which is so interesting because it was only a couple of years ago when Netflix would not do that at all. Then they would release like, 70 million minutes of our shows were watched in the past month. At a Fast Company conference in Manhattan on Wednesday, Sarandos spoke to some of the pushback from writers and actors during the strikes, including the fact that they did not have access to viewership numbers for their show. Netflix is scheduled to release viewership numbers for its top shows Thursday as part of a biannual data dump. I think that is not soon enough because I think that if anything, Netflix does not have to release viewership numbers, but CBS, Fox, ABC, NBC, the CW, HBO, TNT, all of these networks have to, as a part of FCC and Nielsen ratings and all that stuff. And also there's unofficial means that the Nielsen company gets their ratings for streaming platforms and everything. But in the long run, Netflix cancels shows so quickly. Apple TV canceled Time Bandits, starring Lisa Kudrow from Taika Waititi. And that show's only been out for 2 or 3 months, and they just canceled it. And the only way that I know that show got some good reviews. The only way that I know that show is not even performing well on Apple TV is because I went to watch Bad Monkey on Wednesday, and then when I finished Bad Monkey, I scrolled around Apple TV and I went to the top TV shows. Bad Monkey's number 1. Time Bandits is behind even older shows like Pachinko that just launched at season 2. I've never seen that show. But what I'm saying is that there needs to be some sort of, Ted Sarandos is right that these streaming platforms need to release the numbers, but it is a little bit too late for you guys to be the ones to try to spearhead all of that. This is Netflix, for what it's worth. I had a very big problem with Netflix for the past 3 or 4 years. I'm not kidding. I used to just pay and barely watch anything on there. They got they got hundreds of dollars from me, with me only coming back to watch things every so often. But now I'm paying more attention because Netflix is my most expensive streaming platform. I gotta have 4K, baby. But now, I in the past couple of months, I've been thinking, yeah, they've earned this spot, they've earned this domination. Especially last night going to this convention thing, I'm like, yeah, if they earned where they are, and no one is going to be able to catch up to them. There's never going to be another streaming platform there's not going to be another media platform that's going to be able to catch up to them. Prove me wrong, truly. Pushed on the fact that despite a previous statement, Netflix will no longer release subscriber numbers starting in 2025. This is after Ted in this Fast Company conference said, I don't think we could be any more transparent than this. Sarandos said the metric of subscriber numbers no longer made sense because Netflix now offers multiple tiers with different price points. So the subscriber numbers are no longer as a direct correlation to revenue and profit numbers. Netflix, which has 280 million subscribers, will still continue to offer subscriber numbers around certain milestones. Now, here's the thing: the only reason that he's giving this excuse is for subscriber numbers is because, what was it, last year or several months ago, or like a couple of quarters? Let's say a couple of quarters ago, a couple of fiscal quarters ago, they announced subscriber numbers, and this is after the pandemic, and I would say like 2022, 2023. And the numbers had gone down, which drove their stock price down. And the same thing happens to Disney. And now these companies, because they do make a lot of money and their numbers don't really correlate to that, but they do correlate to the stock price, there's a big reaction to them going, hey, maybe we don't need to do this anymore. There's a bug. There's a gnat in here. I didn't catch it. But they're going, hey, maybe we don't need to do this. They're towing the line. They're at this point where they should have been making these moves years ago, and it was only years ago when Netflix started doing. They had a metrics website that said, hey, over 700,000 households watched the first 3 episodes of Stranger Things season 4 over the course of 2 days. Things like that don't make sense. And then they finally closed that down, and now they're going to be doing these numbers, but biannually. Sarandos also talked about the Christmas Day NFL football games, which I completely forgot about. There's 2 of them, and apparently they're going to be. I saw a different article headline. This is nothing, but they're going to be Netflixified, and so it's going to be. I can only imagine the stuff that Amazon Prime was doing. They're like Amazon Prime's. I really do enjoy Amazon Prime's Thursday Night Football coverage because there's, sometimes Dude Perfect hosts a show. I do think that there's some announcing, some commentating issues on that platform. But there's also, you get alternate cast from Dude Perfect and from like maybe it's all women sometimes, things of that nature. So I want to see what Netflix can do. And I'm glad that they're stepping into live sports. Eventually, they're going to have WWE. So that's going to be an interesting way for them to get into live. You see Disney Plus is getting live things, too, with two channels right now so far. ABC News Live and children's, like a preschool children's 24-hour streaming thing, all on Disney Plus. Sarandos also said that YouTube, which is one of the main competitors for Netflix, have similar revenue, engagement, and profit numbers, but YouTube is more advanced in its advertising capabilities and has mostly user-generated content, which also means fewer financial obligations and regulations. The 2 companies capture 20% of screen time, he said, but Sarandos said he's concentrated on tapping into 80%. YouTube also announced this week that even when you pause a video, you're going to be getting ads if you don't have YouTube Premium or an ad blocker. But if you don't have YouTube Premium, and then also the user generated thing is very interesting for him to note. I think in terms of audience, they're mostly different audiences. It's if I go to YouTube, I'm looking at a car review or a tech review or something, or a video game. I'm looking at reviews, or late night stuff. I'm not really looking typically to sit down and watch a high quality production show, because that's what YouTube Red shows were. That's what YouTube Premium shows were. And that did not pan out for that company. So I'm thinking that, a show from the Game Grumps is going to be, that was produced on YouTube, is going to be I can't do math, but I can remember that the Game Grumps had a show. That show is going to be on the same level as even the worst Netflix show is such a stupid notion. You're not, just because Instagram and, I want to choose something else, Snapchat both have video and picture, doesn't mean that people are necessarily flocking to Snapchat because because Snapchat says, "Hey, we're going to have original shows." No, that's just not how it works. There's two different audiences. There's lots of porn on Snapchat. Okay. Let's move into the next story. Speaking of YouTube, Hollywood Reporter, Alex Weprin, YouTube plans major revamp of TV app after overtaking Netflix streaming rivals. Netflix, streaming rivals. There's been a new update on the YouTube app, for the TV. I was going to say the YouTube TV app, the YouTube app for the TV. This came during a Made on YouTube event in New York on Wednesday. They're making it more TV-ish. It's got new features where some people that were creators can categorize their videos by enabling them to organize shows and around episodes and seasons. So if you are somebody who releases like 3 shows on your YouTube channel, and it's just like, TV show A, TV show B, TV show C, and you've been doing them for long enough, you can say, hey, season 1 of TV show B, episode 3. That's how you can market. And it really treats it like what is on Netflix, like what is on Disney Plus. Even though, again, I'm going to say this, just because it looks good doesn't mean it's of the same quality as even the worst Netflix show. There's also immersive previews, which is basically a cinematic trailer that will automatically play when a user navigates to a creator's page. They're also doing work with primetime channels, which is the third party off the thing that you could subscribe to Paramount Plus or Stars or what have you via YouTube Max. And the reason why they're mirroring what they do on primetime channels is because people apparently really like going to Max to see House of Dragon on your YouTube page, and you can see how it's season 1, season 2, whatever. And if these creators are doing these long form videos and in episodic increments, hey, why not? Why not give them the tools to make it seem more TV like? Because the YouTube on TV app is a big way people watch YouTube now. In fact, I think it might be the biggest way at this point. Don't quote me on that. YouTube will also roll out features meant to help creators grow their businesses, including a simpler and more prominent subscribe functionality on the TV app while videos are playing, and feature that generates editors need to go over this, and feature that generates QR codes from links and video descriptions. They're missing the article letter of A before features. According to the Nielsen gauge, here it is. YouTube accounted for 10.6% of viewing on connected TV devices in August, compared to 7.9%. So it is 7.9% for Netflix, 3.1% for Prime Video, and everyone else had a little less than 3%. So it is the biggest way that people watch anything at this point in time. YouTube TV app, YouTube on the app TV, is the number one way that people watch anything on television in terms of streaming. I wonder if this is going to be something that these changes is going to be something that it makes a dynamic shift for YouTube. And if they do want to help out creators and everything, is this a good dynamic way for them to make money? And also, is it going to be something that people are going to want to do? Because there's one thing I dislike about YouTube. There's one thing I dislike about YouTube is that I wish, a couple of years ago, you could link your secondary channel. If there's Throttle House, then there's Extra Throttle House, and you could get from Throttle House, Extra Throttle House, and vice versa. But now there's no way to get to one or the other unless you subscribe to both. And it's just so difficult to see. So YouTube has two things to do at this point now. It's to get rid of the ads. Like, come on, lessen on the ads. But and I'm a guy who pays for YouTube Premium. If I don't like seeing that people complain about ads because I think you're ruining. I think you're forcing them to pay for something or to steal it. And even if somebody on YouTube is not making that much money, there's a reason I'm watching their videos because I like them. Although I'm very good at curating my YouTube related section because, again, it's mostly just like car reviews and tech stuff. And you know, that's pretty much it. And trailers and everything like that. There was a point this week. I don't watch stand up on there on YouTube because it'll go from, like, you know, watching Conan clips to watching Conan with Bill Burr, then watching Bill Burr clips, and then it'll go from like Bill Burr and then a huge jump to Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson. Like, that's not my thing. But there was a point this week where I was scrolling through YouTube and I saw a trailer for a movie and I clicked on it, and it was a movie from a Daily Wire writer. And I was like, what is the Daily Wire? And then I was watching the trailer and it was like, it was a very right-wing movie. And I went, no, thank you. And then it suggested more videos from that person. I was like, no, we're not doing that. And the thing is, the trailer was on Regal Cinema's YouTube channel. And I just went, anyway, not my thing. All right, let's move on. This comes from Variety, written by Pat Saperstein. GLAAD, the Gay Lesbian Alliance of something. Hold on. They don't even have the thing on here? All right, whatever. GLAAD's Studio Responsibility Index finds decline in overall LGBTQ representation, but more lead roles more lead roles and racial diversity. We have seen the Annenberg Inclusion Initiative, the Colors of Change studies, just multiple studies throughout the year. And I think that it's important, I'm going to start off with this, that these are released all the time. I think, like, people want to see different people win now. We've seen numbers that say people are, especially post-pandemic or even during the pandemic, people are watching shows and movies that don't always star people that look like them. They want to see diversity in them. And even though a show like Hacks wins the friggin' this former president, but even though a show like Hacks wins the comedy award for the Emmys, but people want to see diversity in shows, and they want, and whether that's physical diversity or actually that is what diversity is. I mean, whether it's queer, whether it's disabilities, whether it's skin color, they want to see different things. They released the GLAAD. GLAAD released the 12th annual Studio Responsibility Index, which tracked films released in 2023. And yes, there was a big leap of LGBTQ characters who were in their own stories, which is the important part of this. They led the story, or they were in their own stories, not just like featured, like, I'm the gay person, look at me. That's very important. There was a huge leap of that, but they also found that the number of films with LGBTQ characters dropped in 2023. The survey looked at 256 films from 10 major distributors and their subsidiaries and streaming services. Here's what the findings found. 70 of the films counted, or 27.3%, contained an LGBTQ character, which is a decrease from 28.5 in 2022. Those 70 films included 170 LGBTQ characters, of which 46% of the characters were of color, representing an increase of 6% from 2022. Of the 170 characters surveyed, only 2 were transgender. Jesus Christ. Well, they're only looking at films. We did. We can name at least one more trans person, and that's Nova Maru from Baby. I was gonna say Baby Rider, Baby Reindeer, and also I think her name's not Nova. I think it might be Navu. I think it might be Nova. Now I gotta look it up. Nova Maru. Is that the name? Oh, I got it completely wrong. Is it Nava Mal? Who I thought, she is a person of color. She's from Mexico. I thought she was Indian. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But when I heard John Leguizamo at the Emmys name her, and he's like from Mexico, and I went, oh, I could have thought Indian. It was all in the eyebrows. Only 2 of the 170 characters were surveyed were transgender. They're both from Next Goal Wins and Que Viva Mexico, which is down from 13 in the previous year. GLAAD noted the Que Viva Mexico character was played by a cisgender man, reinforcing harmful stereotypes, and called the number alarmingly low. Just 2 of the 170 LGBTQ characters had a disability, a decrease from 11 in the previous year. Who do you think was the worst distributor when it came to LGBTQ representation? And I'll give you a hint. I'm using their Mac Mini. I'm using their iPad. It was Apple. Apple TV had the worst failing grade. A24, interestingly enough, was insufficient. You would think that they'd be, but I think they cater more towards white women. I think that's true. They do. And white men. Straight white men and women. Amazon was good. Lionsgate was insufficient. NBC Universal and Netflix were fair. With Netflix throwing excuse the term, but they truly just I won't say it, but throwing paint at the wall. I was going to say throwing shit at the wall, but throwing paint at the wall and hoping something sticks. You would think that everybody would be represented on Netflix, truly. Paramount Global, Sony, and Walt Disney Studios were insufficient, and Warner Bros. Discovery was poor, probably because they cancel anything with a person of color, and it only features shows like Hacks and White Lotus. Every time someone's like, "Oh, you work in television? Oh, you must love White Lotus." I'm like, no. I'm very polite. I go, no, it's not my style of show. Never seen it, never will. Again, I think I'm going to say it over and over again. I think these studies are so important. Representation is so important in television and film, so that somebody who is a young trans person didn't want to say which any of the genders, not which gender, any of the genders. Excuse me. But someone who's a young trans person, or someone who's an older person with disabilities, somebody who is just a person of color, a woman of color, in their middle ages, and everybody should be represented on television and film and in video games, and in music. I mean, in every piece of media. It's so disheartening to see the same people over and over and over again. I've never seen the show. I have no plans on ever watching it, but the Golden Bachelorette, there's 22 men vying for the heart of this octogenarian. They're also 22 octogenarian men, but like 4 or 5 of them are the people of color, and that's it. And like one of them, I think I'm like kind of like, is he Asian? I don't know. I can barely tell. His first name was Ming. But it is just so like, it's hard to believe that CBS, the network that aims for middle America, is the one to be doing it right at this point in time. To on its reality shows, cast people, go out of its way to cast people who are people of color, who are queer, who are who don't check just one box. It's so fascinating to see that happen, and then to look at Warner Bros. Discovery and see that their shows aren't that well diverse, and or to see Apple, to have them put away $2 billion for TV shows and movies, and then only to come back with, no offense to George Clooney and Brad Pitt, but George Clooney and Brad Pitt. I mean, it's unfortunate, and the bottom line is, in order to sell a movie internationally, it's got to have a white star on the front, and it's got to be a notable white star. And as much as I still think there's like a lot of I mean, as much as people want to, people do want to watch different types of representation in television and movies, but I still think there's a lot of xenophobia. I mean, I walk down the street with my pit bull, who is scared of everything, and that him being scared does come out a little aggressive, but I have it under control. But people still cross the street with their little doodles, and it's just fascinating to see. Okay, so anyway, there's that. Yeah, it's just let's force this representation down the throats of everybody. And finally, this one comes from Variety, written by Pat Saperstein. Welcome to the family. Theater owners plan to spend $2.2 billion to modernize and upgrade movie-going experiences. Because of the pandemic, even before the pandemic, we saw a bit of a decline in people going to the movies, going out to entertainment, and everything like that. And unfortunately, after the pandemic, we just saw the numbers drop dramatically. And that's when, we started seeing a lot of streaming platforms just pick up movies left and right. And in any case, or in other cases, we're also seeing movies be in theaters for a handful of weeks, only to be thrown onto streaming, if not a streaming platform, to be thrown onto being able to rent on Google or Apple or Vudu, or Fandango at home, or Amazon within weeks of them being released. Like Harold and the Purple Crayon is now available to rent on. Not that I'll ever watch Zachary Levi in a movie again. I did watch the new Shazam a couple of weeks ago at some point over the course of like 3 days. I can't sit down and watch a superhero movie all the way straight anymore. I can't. I'm done with that. What's interesting? As much as I dislike superhero movies, I will not see one in theaters. That's just, I'm drawing a line there. I will never go and see it. I haven't seen a lot of superhero movies in theaters since Endgame, because I think it's all just the same crap over and over and over again. But if it's a Saturday afternoon and I've got nothing going on and there's no golf, and on TNT there's like Ant-Man and Wasp or Batman v Superman, you better believe I'm turning it on. I'll put it on in the background, grab the Steam Deck, and play a game as that BS is playing on TV. The 8 biggest theater chains in the U.S. and Canada announced Thursday that they plan to invest more than $2.2 billion to modernize and upgrade more than 21,000 screens over the next 3 years. In some locations, that'll include things like pickleball and zip lines, and and most of the locations, that's going to be improved sound, improved projection, as well as upgraded dining experiences. Michael O'Leary, the president and CEO of the National Association of Theater Owners, said across the industry, we're feeling that perhaps we've turned a corner. The audiences are coming back to theaters. There's just a very positive kind of feeling about the future. I think these upgrades are long overdue. This the national NATO, I think it's a NATO, National Association of Theater Owners, NATO, not to be confused with NATO. They're the ones who, set the rule. Well, like, hold on, they don't set the rules for the Oscars, but they are the ones who, with the Academy, are like, hey, Netflix and Apple, if you want your movies to be considered for, award season, then you're going to have to put them in theaters for X amount of time. It's a great coalition of a company to come together and get people to or get theaters in line. I like him. I like the association, and I'm glad that they're going to go through these upgrade plans. This is like, we're dealing with Saperstein writes the after effects of the pandemic and the Hollywood strikes. Summer box office totals have been slumping year over year for the past couple of years, with the exception of the year that Spider-Man No Way Home came out. I believe that is that same year where they just had this boom and everybody thought, hey, theaters are on their way back. Let's do this. So we're gonna see updates in the projection. I think, at my local AMC, they have the Dolby Cinema, which is great, and then they also have the laser projection, which is the best version of regular projection that's not Dolby Cinema. At the Regal Cinema near me at Atlantic Station, they have 4DX and IMAX and all that stuff. However, there are movie theaters that don't near me that don't have that. I believe there's an AMC in Decatur at an old mall complex where they have shot some horror movies, and I think horror movies and zombie movies, or end of the world movies and TV shows. They've shot stuff there, and people have been shot there. Very true. But while the tickets are cheap, while the tickets are like $9, they don't have the best screens. Like, period. And also, entering and exiting that theater makes me feel like I will be attacked, and I don't want to feel that way. I'd rather just go to my AMC and enjoy that one. I'd rather pay the $4 more, because I only go on Tuesdays, baby. I only go Tuesdays during the day. God, again, if a movie theater would open at 10 a.m. The ones in the suburbs do. When I used to live in the suburbs, that was one good thing. I could hop into a movie at 9 a.m. on a Saturday. Leave, sun's still up, it's 11. It wasn't like 9 a.m., it was like 10. I hope that these are done quick. I'm not a huge fan of dining and extra stuff at movie theaters. In fact, I avoid movie theaters. I don't go to the Regal at Atlantic Station. A, because parking is a hassle. B, I don't want to be, speaking of being hassled, I don't want to be hassled by teenagers. And C, it's just too far. But it's just not, it's not accessible for me, for someone who doesn't want to drive back in traffic. It's a 10-minute drive there. It'll be a 20-minute drive back. It's just not worth it. To watch a 40X movie of Beetlejuice farting in your face and you just smell it. Oh, Lydia, hey, what's up? Oh, it smells like Beetlejuice in here. Don't say his name a third time. And the zip lining and pickleball, and also at this Regal at Atlantic Station, it's in the middle of an outdoor shopping plaza. So it is just filled with the trashiest people who are like, let me go to H&M, let me go to Sephora, let me go to Banana Republic. Let me get drunk at this California Pizza Kitchen. That's not there, but I'm just saying. It's a candy store where you fill up a bag of overpriced Skittles and gummy bears and stuff like that. Have I been there before? Yeah, my ex and I went there once. And I think we collectively spent like $30 on like 2 half-pound bags of candy. So that's that. But I think these extraneous activities are the things that are going to pull people back. Hey, if I can go play pickleball and then go to a movie and then go to a restaurant or have dinner at this AMC or at this theater, then yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do it. That's what they say. I don't do that. I will have dinner elsewhere. I will not play pickleball. I'll play a different thing. All right, listen, if you like what you heard here, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where you can see me talk to famous people sometimes. Chris Grace just dropped, and I will have another interview either after this episode, directly after this episode, or directly after the next episode. I don't know when this person's project drops, but I'll have to double check. And if you want to see a video version of this show, head to youtube.com/peoplescomedy, where you can also see video versions of the other shows, Late Night Lately, the Late Night Show, and LinkedIn Logs, which is the business podcast. You can subscribe to those wherever you get your podcasts. And hey, listen, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do that. TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at C Plus Comedy. Follow me on those platforms at Chad Black White. Rate and review, subscribe. Tell your friends about it. I'll see you next time. Thank you. Good night. Good luck. Bye.